Hey, beautiful soul. Before we jump into the episode, I want to know, did you know that I have a completely free virtual new moon circle called Co-Create every single month? This stemmed out of a constant request for a space or a church that taught so many different spiritual modalities, tools, systems, beliefs, and I didn't have any place to send them. So I created it. In Co-Create, this is the space that I want to bring to you to learn how to create a connection to yourself, your energetics, and the divine in a community that won't make you feel like a weirdo. A space where you can ask any question you want, where we get to dive into so many systems and beliefs and tools, and you get to pick and choose what feels good for you. So you can learn what it means to truly co-create with the universe, God, source, for flow, trust, and surrender, to connect with other women who are spiritually curious in a space that's safe, sacred, and inspirational. It's your space for you to find your people and lean into new spiritual practices to truly co create with the universe or God or source or whoever you feel connected to. You'll gain tools and knowledge to understand what it really means to lean into the universal laws and become magnetic, all while being held by massive feminine energy. I've been hosting these free new moon circles for almost a year now, and it's definitely one of my most sacred spaces, and it's completely free for you every single month. Diana said that she made a promise to herself that she would work on her personal development and growth journey earlier in 2024. So I reached out to her and asked her for a testimonial to share with us. And what she said was Adriana's membership community and Co-Create has accelerated that and more. I have had multiple breakthroughs from finding a new career path, improving my mental health by reducing my anxiety and depression through journaling, meditation, and breath work, improving my physical health, doing walking meditations are my jam, strengthening my marriage and relationships, improving my money mindset, and just setting up a routine that complements my design. I've learned to embrace challenges as a sign of growth. I will continuously do my best to be in harmony with myself, with this world, and the universe. I have never felt so seen, heard, safe, and supported. Her community and Co-Create has helped me connect to my true authentic self, to move with grace and intention, to embrace everyone's uniqueness. And we each have a special gift and are collectively part of this world to show and share it this way. Thank you so much, Diana, for sharing all of your reflections and how Co-Create and my community has changed your life. And now I want to share it with everyone else. The link to register is in the show notes below. Even if you register for 1 month, you will automatically be signed up to be able to join every single month for as long as you're on the list. So you don't have to repeat it every month. You will always get on the list. You will always have the Zoom link available. I love you so much. Thank you so much for being here. Now enjoy the episode. Welcome to the No BS Human Design Podcast. I'm Adriana Keefe, human design coach and motivational speaker. I went through my quarter life crisis in my 20s and had to learn how to navigate through finding what I was meant to be doing with my life. I refused to believe in the culture that said we were all meant to have the same path and boring careers until we retire and die. And along my journey, I found human design, a system that reveals your energetic blueprint, showing you where and how to access your body's consciousness and how to live as your true self. Human design changed my life, so I started sharing it with others and changing their lives, but we were all finding the same problem: a lack of resources that explain the system in easy and useful ways. So I created this show, where we dive deep into the lessons of the human design system without the BS and the noise you find on the internet. Listen in for lessons in human design, finding your purpose, manifestation and spiritual practices, human design within business, and so much more. We connect with other experts in the human design and spiritual realm in a refreshingly honest way to help you find your way along your spiritual path and live this life with intention. It's time to let go of the societal expectations of being and let yourself find abundance through being uniquely you. Let's get started. Okay, I am very, very excited to have this conversation. Not just because of the topic, but because of you. And I fucking love you. And I'm so grateful that I'm able to have you on the podcast. Thank you for being here, Rachel. I'd love for you to take a moment to say hi and let us know who you are.
Hi, I'm Rachel, the Good Witch of the Northeast. I'm super excited to be here today. I am a psychic medium who works in the online space. I do a lot of ancestral healing, generational trauma cycle breaking, and I view myself as like a bridge between like whatever is beyond our physical bodies and us.
Mm. Oh, I love that. And you've definitely been that for me personally. So, a little background on Rachel. She is local to me, and people last year, like spring of last year, were saying to me, like, Do you follow the Good Witch of the Northeast? She's local. Go follow her." I swear to God, it was like three different people who said that to me, and I would never remember to go on Instagram and follow you. And then in August, I go to my friend Tina's house. She's like, "We're having this intuitive tarot reader come over from my daughter's school." You walk in, I'm like, "Oh my God, it's you." Like, literally, the universe has been trying to connect me with you for like months before that. And then ever since then, we've been like best friends. And now you're a part of like my local coven here, which is one of the best things I think I've had come out of 2024. It's so helpful, not just in like spiritual growth personally, but because we're all business owners, and that has been so impactful for me. So, a side note, little tangent to say thank you
Mhm.
for receiving me and being a part of my coven here
You've
because you
been
are.
so instrumental to my business growth.
Oh.
Like it's the accountability aspect of people who also flow, because I
Mm.
can't fit in the realm of the write out your planner, and I want to be that person, but I literally cannot. So like it's nice to have you guys as like sounding boards, and like I view you guys as bumpers on my lane, so I
Mm.
can beep up boop up boop up boop.
I like that. The bumpers, yes. And if you know everything, could you tell everyone your human design and your top three
Yes.
astrology?
Okay, so I am a manifesting generator, and I'm a 3/5. Just learned. I don't know what this means, but I'm a 3/5, sacral responder, and I'm a Leo, Libra, Libra.
Love that. And we both have the 1/8 and the 2/14 channels, which are the creative role models and the making money doing it, like whatever just lights up our sacral. So that
Oh
I
God, we
feel
were
like
born.
that's probably why we connect so much is like we literally vibe on the same wavelength when it comes to like I just want to be creative and do something unique and make money doing it.
And it's funny too, because in our chat, it's like us like beep up boop up boop up boop.
Yes, yes, it's always us talking the most. Probably the manifesting part of us for sure. Okay, so I wanted to have you on today because you've like allowed me to see witchcraft in a very simple. This is your line five, by the way. Line fives are very practical, making systems, being strategic. You've really simplified like witchcraft for me. And I didn't always like fear the word witch or anything. I feared what came with that title, quote title, if you want to say title. Um, and then I never really was interested in spell work or anything like that. It just didn't feel like me. However, since meeting you, I've done a few different types of spell work things with you. Oh my God, I should tell them the chicken story. The
Please
first night
do.
that you read me at Tina's house, you said I had some sort of ancestral curse that had to do something like your chickens may not prosper because I was like my family has been struggling so much financially, not just my immediate family, but like all my
Generationally.
ancestors, yes, generationally. And when you said that, I had literally just lost most 12 out of 13 of our chickens to a fox, like in the weeks prior. And so I was like, how did you know that? And then we did some ancestral spell work with my grandmother and my sister. It was a really beautiful ceremony. And then we did a little bit more at Jess's house. And then it was like the day after I came home to one of my new chickens, which it's been too cold for them to lay. And we just got them, so they didn't want to lay because they're like, "Where the fuck am I?" And I came home and there was a single egg in there, and I was like, "Oh!"
In the dead of winter.
In the dead of winter, I was like, "It's working."
It's working.
So it was so light and fun, and it helps me build that trust muscle, proving with the evidence. That's what people know me for. So I really wanted to bring you on here, not just to talk about the history of the witch, but also to help Make it feel so safe and simple. I think that's what you really do with spell work and witchcraft and all of that. Is there anything that you want to add to that before we keep going?
Yeah, one thing is that what was funny about your reading is I don't talk like that usually. Like I believe when people are like, "Oh, I have a curse in my family." It's like, "Okay, do you struggle with self-worth? Like do you
Mm,
struggle with, receiving? Do you, there's
mhm.
people always think curse or jinx or whatever or hexes as these, and they're just goddamn trauma responses. So like I don't usually use that language, but like that came to me so vividly. Like I saw the woman in the village running and screaming it, and I was like, "Oh,
That's a good point. Thank you for adding that because typically, if I had a client come to me and say that they were told they were cursed, I'd be like,
right,
"Girl."
right." Same.
But because you said that, I had this, I mean, I'm claircognizant, right? So I just knew it was accurate. And then the
Mhm.
day after, I went to lunch at my grandmother's house and she was like, "Yeah, your great great grandfather tried to run, what was it, a bar out of his chicken
Yeah.
coop. And he got shut down because it was an illegal bar. And then something else happened where there was a lot of stealing in my lineage, and that's a fox, right? So
Mhm.
everything you told me, I literally learned about that week as being accurate. I was like, this is blowing my mind.
Crazy.
Oh, crazy. So I think where I'm feeling called to ask you to start is to talk a little bit about like your journey of becoming a witch,
Mm.
because that wasn't, I don't know if it wasn't natural to you or like it was very unexpected.
Yes. It's interesting. So my journey, it's funny because when I look back now with the knowledge I have and the gifts I do, I see why it started this way. I started witchcraft. I mean, I learned about it when I was in high school. I saw the craft, was obsessed with it.
Hmm.
Um, and I really identified with that role. But in 2016 is really when I started exploring Wicca for the first time. And I really dedicated myself to it, but there was a lot of shame around it. Like my family made fun of me, which I mean, I'm Irish, so then I'm the youngest, so like fair. Um, and I remember going to this local witch store and I walked in and asked if there was like people I could learn from because all the books I was getting was like, meet up with, find a coven, quote unquote, a coven, work with these other people. It'll be helpful, and you had to practice for a year and a day. It was very stringent. And I remember feeling like it was almost it, but not quite. And so I walk into the witch shop and I'll never forget it was this old man and he shamed me. He was like, "You're not meant to, you're only doing this because you want to connect with other people. You don't," and like I remember, and I have a stuttering problem. And now looking back, I'm like, that makes sense. I remember looking at him and be like, "Oh, what the fuck?" And all I said was, "You don't want my money, that's fine." And then I turned on my heel and I left. And I kept with the book, and I was really proud of myself for that. I kept with the book and I kept studying. Like I made friends with other witches and I kind of learned from them in the background. I studied tarot here and there. And then after my daughter was born in 2019, and I struggled with postpartum depression and just feeling like I knew I needed to, it's like I wanted to go home, but I didn't want to like, you know?
Yep.
And so I fell back into tarot and with that fell back into witchcraft. And it's really what blew me open, and I felt more connected, more seen, more, and not by anyone in the real world, but by myself and
Mm.
like and now looking back, my spirit guides, my spirit team.
And it,
I'll never forget like those first few instances of connection. And that's how I knew I was claircognizant because I would bring them to my therapist because I was in trauma therapy at the time. I said I would have this vision in meditation, and he was a Christian man. He was like, "I don't know what the is happening, but it's something, and it's really, really what saved my life." And that's why like I love witchcraft because it's something that is so simple and small as like stirring intentions into your coffee in the morning or like it's even if you struggle with meditation, like you don't have to traditionally meditate. My favorite thing about witchcraft is like it's not a one size fits all, and there's so many correspondences and so many tools available to help you that like as long as you know inherently what you want and what your directive is, there's a plethora of healing available.
yeah, you're gonna meet some not so modern, I would say the older witches, and maybe some modern too, who will be like, no, you can't do that. That's wrong. You have to do
Yeah, that's
everything by
Wicca.
the book. Oh, is it Wicca? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not so much how I
Mm-mm.
think either of us would flow. We trust in our own inner authorities. So
And
like
Wicca was developed in the 50s by a man.
in the 50s. Oh, I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
by a man.
So it's newer.
Mhm.
Interesting.
But it's not
Oh,
taught that.
It was in England, wasn't it?
Yep.
I remember from my book. I recently read a book about it now. Okay.
And but it's not taught that, you know?
Mm, yeah. And it's interesting that you say you have a stutter because since I've met you, I've never seen you stutter that I can consciously remember.
Yeah.
So look at how this coming home to yourself literally changed your not just your
Dude,
physicality, but
it was so bad that like I went to speech therapy outside of school and in school 5 days a week when I was growing up because my
Mhm.
stutter was so bad people couldn't understand me.
Wow,
Mhm.
that's insane.
And now I recognize it as the channel being open and like whatever usually it's Archangel Gabriel, but feeling like that because I stutter when I'm feeling misunderstood or angry.
Hmm.
And once I removed like the Rachael filter, I don't stutter.
That's so
I'm mean and visceral, but sometimes you need to be.
That's so
And it's funny
interesting.
because I went back into the local witch store because that man doesn't own it anymore. He sold it to an amazing woman who I love and I support the store so much. But I walked in one day and he was there and we locked eyes and I could feel the energy shift. And I didn't say anything. And I just went about my business. And I said hi to the woman. She said hi to me. But I was like, this fucker remembers me.
Hmm.
I don't know if he knows he remembers me, but he remembers me.
Oh yeah, his energy does.
It
Yeah.
shifted immediately and he was like,
Hmm. Yep. So for anyone who's like new to, and I will say, I'm still rather new to the world of witchcraft, all of that, because I'm just now learning what a witch really is. I mean,
"Mhm,
in every past life, I've been some sort of healer, or I worked with crystals or herbal medicines, and in any of those lives, I mean, I was killed a bunch of times because in any of those lives that was considered witchcraft, and witchcraft was bad. And then
mhm."
I started reading books. And of course, I was called to read the Da Vinci Code for the first time ever. I know people shame me. They're like, you just read the Da Vinci Code now? I'm like, I
I've
wouldn't
never
have
read it and
appreciated
now I'm going to read it.
now, yes, because I would not have appreciated it if I read it when I was younger. I wouldn't get it. But it talks about like pagan and the divine feminine and where a witch, where that term really comes from. So I'd love for you in your perspective to share on like the history of the witch and why it's not this, it shouldn't be this like stigma of like evil.
Mm. It's funny because my perspective is something that is like I'm blessed to have this perspective because of the work I do. I've been able to connect with so many people and their ancestors. It's it's anyone my perspective on the witch is anyone who is trying to heal and align with whatever their true intentions is, and they use all the resources available to do so. What society thinks a witch is someone who plots and wants to bring strangers down for no reason.
Hmm. And it's all
It's
like
so
evil, like voodoo doll
yeah.
shit. Yeah.
And like there are close practices because I'm very white. So and as an ancestral healer, I've been blessed again to learn about these close practices, but I have strict boundaries with them. Like I don't use white sage, I don't use Palo Santo, and like I try to like I just had a company reach out to me. I forgot to tell you guys. I had a company reach out to me and they want to send me like a PR box. And I was like, oh, awesome. And they were like, we'll send you our white sage. And I was like, here's the thing. And I
Okay, so
explained,
expand upon that because
yes,
if I don't know what you're talking about with white sage and Palo Santo, I know what
yes.
a close. Okay, start from the beginning. Closed practices. What do you mean by that?
So closed practices would be any sort of practice because I'm white, there are certain types of magic that are not available to me. We could even say certain points of Judaism, but their archaic knowledge is a closed practice, meaning it is for those people that are born into it. Voodoo has some, hoodoo has some. I've read people that are had no idea that they were connected to what is that? Santa Muerte. And so, but when the guide presented themselves to me, I told the person, they educated themselves on it, they connected. And it's funny because I never want to share someone else's reading, but her connection with this deity really gave her true safety when she needed it.
Mm,
Um, so with White Sage and Palo Santo, those are part of two different types of closed practices that are widely popularized by like Americans. And White Sage is considered endangered. And its really only purpose is to connect with the indigenous ancestors.
can you elaborate on where they come from? Because I'm wondering if I am of that ancestry.
Um, well, I mean, probably, considering your lineage, probably.
Interesting. Yeah.
Definitely, I think you definitely like Palo Santo, but
Palo Santo
usually,
makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, that feels very
I don't
aligned
know
with
anything
me.
about white sage though. I'll have to
So
look
that's
that one up.
usually Native Americans.
Oh, I am Cherokee. Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, good.
Okay.
I have white sage to give you. Perfect. Because
Save it.
I either save it or donate it, or I'll go to Tracy at the witch store and just be like, hey, here you go.
Okay, cool. Good to know.
But yeah, it's not in 2020 on TikTok. It really, my friend Sarah and I were talking about this the other day because like I never want to be this person that's like, you shouldn't. Um, but like also to educate,
Yeah,
you
it's just a
know?
part of your values and your code.
Yeah.
People
And my
can.
thing as an ancestral healer, I'm gonna want to work, and some people, sorry about him, I'm like, some people don't do ancestral workings, and that's totally fine. But I'm gonna want to use something that's aligned with my ancestors. I'm Irish, so we're gonna use cedar, we're gonna use rosemary, we're gonna use something, a goddamn tree, a pine, you
Mm,
know? There's so many other things, and with white sage being endangered, I want to leave that to the people that need it,
mm.
you know?
Wow.
Just because I can use a plethora of other, and also I have Irish Catholic roots of like trauma of, and so there are certain energies where I'm like, I don't want to, what if I'm like, I knowingly know I shouldn't use this white sage, and then I use it, and then someone's ancestors comes along and wipes me out. I'm a firm believer in fuck around and find out, you know?
Oh, I would hope that would not happen, but I can understand why you have that as a part of your code.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Interesting. Okay. All right. So wait, we diverted. We were talking
Right.
about I forget where we were. Okay, well we were talking about like the history of the witch and what all of that meant. Um And oh, this came up in our group recently where we were shown like Instagram reels and stuff all about the movie Wicked and
Yes.
how there's a lot of people in certain religions who are bashing it and anyone who goes to see it because it's devil worship. And it's just so mind-blowing now that I know things. I can't unknow them, right? So now I know the word pagan is actually directly correlated to the divine feminine
Yes.
and literally like loving on yourself as a woman and your feminine energy and all of that. And so there's literally women in different religions posting so much hate about something that at its roots is actually all about them.
Celebration. Yeah.
Celebration. Yeah. So like what do you have to say on that? Like especially around the word pagan, if you have anything specific you would add to that. And how it really boils down to like the divine feminine, I think.
I think it's really so. I do identify way more as a pagan than I do, um, obviously, like agnostic or anything like that. And that's because I try to practice and honor the earth and like do a lot of earth-based practices. Like when we
Okay,
did
so
all,
pagan is like nature, not nature, but earth-based
yeah, I'd say it's
ritual.
earth-based, anything ancient. I keep hearing the word archaic, so like
Mm,
old energy, because we can go back to and again, me being Irish, we can go back to the Druids. The Druids were a very pagan-based um, religion that is incredibly old, and they had ancient wisdom that they used.
mm,
It's
interesting.
I think it's funny to watch people who classify themselves into part of a religion that they're supposed to spread love, that there's so much judgment and oppression and hatred that it's so funny to me because I see a lot of women bashing the movie based on the characters, like they on the characters' weight or their appearances.
Hmm.
Nothing grinds my gears more than watching women tear down other women.
Yep.
I I lose my ever loving fucking mind. I've lost friendships over it
Hmm. Yep.
because, like, if you're gonna sit here and bash another, like, I don't, we're all, especially when it comes down to like another man being involved. Like, I cannot stand that.
That feels like a multiple life thing going on for you
Oh,
too.
absolutely. It's funny. Like, so my mom named me Rachel, and like in the biblical version of in like the Bible or something, Rachel was like the third wife or something, and she
Mm.
was very like, I don't know, it makes sense.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. That's so funny. And I don't know if I told you that I recently learned that in my lineage in Spain, my last name was Pagan or P Pagan. But yes, so literally my family's
That's
lineage
crazy.
has that last name. Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I
That's
know.
cool
It
as
is
fuck.
wild. Um, and so I think that's really like all of that learning, like reading the Da Vinci Code, all of that has really opened me up to understanding what certain religions and what the patriarchy. I know I'm not a super like fuck the patriarchy person, but really what the patriarchy has taken from us
It's
and has
all
made all this
fear-based.
bad. It is. It very much is fear-based.
And I think fear and love can't exist on the same vibration. They're two polar opposite.
Hmm.
And when you boil it down, like you can pretty much track anything through either lens, you know? So in my opinion, the patriarchy is very fear-based, very repressive, very like, ugh. And when it comes to witchcraft, there's a lot of trust in something that we don't see.
Right.
There's a lot of trust in evidence and like that we don't have. We
Hmm.
have to start sentences with like, I don't know how I know this, but I know it.
I think what I'm finding interesting is what spell work gives me, and I've only dabbled, but it's that it gives me something tangible as like a manifestation practice. I've
Absolutely.
found really playful and fun, especially when I'm getting tired of visualizing or meditating and my mani gen body needs to like do something else. I've really liked being able to do tangible things, which you're going to walk us through in the Magnetic Rebellion this month, which is going to be
Yes,
so much fun.
I'm so
Little
excited.
introduction to protection work. But what would you say to anyone who is still like really nervous about dabbling in anything like spell work?
It's funny you brought that up, that word of protection. Anyone who's new
Mm.
to spell work or new to witchcraft in general, learn protection. And like there are some people who are like, what's your intention? I don't give a fuck about your intention. Like they because we all have paths, we all have justice that we need to seek, and there are things to balance. Like I don't give a shit about that. Like I will help with that later on. But in the beginning, learn about protection, protecting your peace, protecting your home, protecting your work, and then how to reverse your work. Like that's something I still forget and something I still definitely struggle with. But knowing how to undo something that you've done or being okay with the fact that it might not be undoable.
Mm.
And like that's
Mm.
a heavy responsibility.
So if it feels like if it's such a heavy responsibility, then how does one start to play with that and take that on?
It's more about because it's difficult because I want to be like power, but I remember in the very beginning that scared the shit out of me.
Mm.
In the beginning of my witchcraft journey, I just wanted to feel better. That was it. I knew I felt like shit and I just wanted to feel better. And that doing spell work is what helped me kind of slow my mind down so my body could catch up.
Mm.
And so that's what I love about spell work too. And it's given me another way to divinate, like learning what different candle flames mean and how to read wax and things like that. It's been a really interesting um and it like I don't know, it's a fun way to play with my intelligence, I think.
I agree.
You know?
Yeah. And you're right. That's true with like the divination tools, because in my first reading that you did for me, you were like, you can read tea leaves. I was like, I can. I have no idea. And then since then, whenever I drink cacao, I realize I can read cacao. I'm
Yeah,
like,
you did it at our ceremony.
yeah, oh yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I probably could read tea leaves then.
Mhm.
So it's so much more than what it looks like on the TV and the movies. And
Oh, absolutely. Because even like taking a bath, like that bath
oh, the
spell work
ritual.
was huge for me when I had a tub. Like at least once a month, I was taking a really intentional bath with
Mhm.
different correspondences, different intentions behind it.
Okay, I'm gonna need more information on that later because I
Yes.
take baths all the fucking time,
Oh
especially in
yeah.
the
How have we
winter.
not talked about
I
this?
don't
Yes,
know.
absolutely.
Like I think every day this week I've taken a bath. That's how I re-energize in the afternoon after
Can
sitting
I
here.
come to your house and use your bathtub? I'll pay
It's
you.
like an hour every day in the winter, especially. Um, and it's interesting on my own journey, I'm finding as I'm playing with this kind of work, witchcraft and spell work actually doesn't even feel like the right description for me because it just feels like an energetic exchange or like an energetic intention as
Hmm.
I'm doing it. So if anyone's like feeling still weird about the term witchcraft or spell work, it really doesn't have to feel like that. Like you can make it your own.
We overcomplicate it so
Mhm.
much. And
Yeah.
that's like learning that I'm neurodivergent. And that's why I think I like correspondences so much is because it's become a hyper focus for me.
Mm.
So like when I was getting ready today, I'm very intentional with which crystals I wear due to like what I'm doing and then the day of the week. That's why when you launched the Magnetic Rebellion, I was like, good choice for a Thursday. Like, why? I'm like, oh, expansion, it's Jupiter day. And like then
Yeah.
I hyper focus on all the good ways that is.
Yeah, and your body naturally, oh, that's so interesting. Your body naturally, as you attune to the universe and your design and all this stuff, you start to naturally pick up the energy
Mhm.
of what you're supposed to be doing when. Remember when you said, "Oh, Mondays are for this, Tuesdays are for this, Wednesdays are for this." I was like, I literally have my schedule planned that way. I
Mhm.
didn't know that, but I was already energetically aligned to that type of spell work, if you
Yeah,
will, which is so
absolutely.
fascinating to look back on.
That was why when you first got into it, I got so excited because I was like, oh, I get to watch my process from the other angle.
Yes, that's so
You know,
true.
it's
Yeah.
so much fun because I
Yeah.
have clients that like they call me their mentor, but I have a hard time with that. And I just tell them what I've done, and then watching them do it and put their own spin on it and stuff is so validating and so cool. And my favorite part of witchcraft because it's I also mentor not I mentor men too, but witch isn't just applied to women. I've non-binary, like there's the trans people, like there's witch is about learning to receive
Hmm.
and being
Oh, you're right. That is the divine feminine behind it all.
Mhm. It's learning to receive.
Oh, see, okay, so this is your 3-5 profile coming through. My human design
Oh,
mentor, she's a 3-5, and her slogan is human design made simple. You literally just witchcraft made simple that. And your three is all trial and error. And you're literally sitting here saying you just tell your clients like what you've tried and what
mhm,
works and what doesn't work. And then
mhm.
they play with that's literally you're literally living out your profile.
That's amazing. That's why it's so fucking easy. And that's why I get so
Mhm.
frustrated with myself too sometimes because I'm like, it should be harder. And I'm like, bitch, why? Your first part
Why?
of your
Right.
life was hard
Right.
enough. You're okay.
No, that's the masculine way of doing things. But
Mhm.
when
And that
we
goes back to paganism too,
yep,
because like I keep seeing the ways a lot of pagans celebrated holidays, especially like Ostara. Do you know how that was celebrated?
no.
There's a 3-day orgy.
Stop
Hmm.
it.
Yep. And it's about receiving and giving pleasure. And it was usually done outside. It makes me think of the line from The Office when Creed is like, I made love outside in the rain, in the mud.
In the
Maybe a
mud.
man slept in, who knows? Um, and it's all about celebration, the creation, like creation of life through
Mm.
self and others'
Mm.
body parts.
Wow. Wow, that's wild. So yeah, I mean, if you look at the way our culture is, it's no wonder that witchcraft and doing anything with the earth or the elements, like you could literally be like, "Oh, I'm gonna talk to the wind," and people would be like, "Ah," but that's why it was all taken away from us. People are like, "No,
I've met
I
so
do
many
that."
people that were like, I was so afraid of witchcraft, and then I met you. And a little part of it, I'm like, you should still be afraid of me. But I'm like, thanks. That's really nice.
That's
But
really
you should
funny.
still be afraid of me. I got hexes, I got hands.
I think that's really like the era that we're in is women taking that power back. Like, you should be afraid of us. We literally create life in our bodies.
We're portals to the
How?
divine. I'm saying.
How? Like,
Man,
scientifically, yeah, the sperm goes in there. Cool. But
we're born,
how?
we're born with all the eggs that we will ever have in our life. So if we do choose
Mhm.
to procreate, like that, oh, I just use the word co-create, procreate.
Yep. Procreate, co-create.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Um, and it's so funny because like like some of us, well, all of us were formed in the bodies of our grandmothers.
Mhm.
That's so fucking cool. But
Mhm.
also no wonder why there's so much fear, repression, shame,
Yep.
abuse.
Yep. Exactly. Man,
That's why
okay.
like the masculine loves a pick me. The masculine energy, they or the patriarchy, they love a female who will tear down another woman.
Mm,
They love
that's so
it
true. Yeah.
because it
Oh.
divides our agenda.
Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, exactly. The more of us who remember, the stronger we get.
Mhm.
And again, this isn't a whole fuck the patriarchy, like whatever, but this
No,
is about like taking back our power and taking back our
balance.
lives. The balance.
Balance. And like, who am I hurting when I go out and meditate outside? Who am I
Hmm.
hurting when I have a solo sex magic experience? Fucking
Hmm.
no one. Why do
Yep.
y'all care?
Yep. Exactly.
Go hug your mother.
Yeah, that's a good point too, though. It's like it's a healing journey
It
because
abs
it's a
it
remembrance.
and it's different for everybody.
Mhm.
And that's the part that's scary. And I think what a lot of people stay stuck out of witchcraft because they're like, I need someone who's had my exact experience so I know what to do to a T. And that will never work.
Mm.
And I've tried it. I've tried it so many times. I'm the queen of self-abandonment. But that's because it was impossible. I thought it was impossible for me to follow what I wanted.
Yep.
And now look, like I've made a full-time job out of, and I have a high school diploma, but I have barely any college. There's no certification for this other than people like me being emphatic with my truth and people being like, "Oh, I fuck with that girl,
Yep.
woman." I hate when people call me girl. I'm
I don't
39.
like it either. Yeah, when I
That
watch like The Bachelor and they say this
bothers me.
girl, I'm like, that bitch is a grown-ass woman. Like,
I did CrossFit for the first time. Not CrossFit. I did like a
yep.
gladiator fit training the other day.
Hmm.
He was like, guys and girls. I looked around, I was like, I was one of the youngest people. I was like, we're women? We're women.
We're women, right? Yeah.
We're women.
Cool.
I'm
Thank
not a
you.
girl. Because
Yeah.
like where's my kid?
Yeah. I don't like that either. Yeah. It's
It,
icky to me. Gives me the ick.
it
What
does.
do you feel like? eh, Is there anything that comes up regarding the history of the witch or the term witch or anything that you feel like we haven't covered that's important for the listener to know?
Yeah, fear and shame are going to come up first foremost for everybody because not only do we have like the witch trials in America, but we like the witch trials that went rampant through Europe in the 14th and 15th century. There was thousands and thousands of people, not just women, that were murdered, raped, and killed. Well,
Hmm.
obviously murdered and killed are the same,
Yeah.
but abused and murdered. And and for what? For their connection to the divine, because
Hmm.
it was feared. And what took over instead was a religion where we were told that only men can talk to God.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
And there's literally gospels that Mary Magdalene wrote that were ripped out. And
Yeah, and not talked about. And she
Mhm.
was I think it was 1967. I'll have to fact check this, but I think it was in the 60s that the Pope said she was one of his first disciples. She was not a prostitute. And I remember learning that. My dad was in the seminary before I met my mom, and I called my dad in 2020 and was like, why the fuck did I learn she was a prostitute in 1994? And he was like, I don't know.
I'm very excited for you to come in the community and teach
Me too.
them how to like start doing their own type of spell work or how to connect with their inner witch or whatever they want to call it. Like sometimes I'm like, yeah, I don't think witch is the correct word, which that makes sense because priestess feels much more aligned for me. And any of those terms, it's all women using the power of the earth and the elements. And shaman is like another term,
Mystic,
right? Like it's
oracle.
yes, Oracle. I like that one too. Sorceress.
Mhm.
Like all of that. So it's like if you want a label, cool, use one that feels good for you. If you don't, just start playing with the elements. Just start playing with crystals or candles or whatever it is.
It's been
And
super windy as we've been talking, and like
dude, it's been
the
so windy.
the intuitive in me is like, oh, the element of air, communication, but also cleansing. Like, how beneficial is this conversation going to
Hmm.
be?
Hmm. And seeing so many women come forward and be not just starting their own spell work or witchcraft with you in the community, but also just like opening themselves up to it. Like
Yeah.
I think that's the best part is when you're just like curious enough to be like, okay, let me receive this information and
Mhm.
see what I feel about it. Because
And
I
then look
went to
around your own life and see how
yeah,
you've already done it, or you're already
right?
drawn to it.
Yes, like I have an altar. I've kind of always been, not always, it always in the past few years been doing this kind of stuff, even though I didn't know it.
Have we talked about glamour magic?
Briefly, do you want to describe what that is?
Yes, that's something I want to talk to you about a lot too. So I use glamour magic. It was a way for me to heal my perception. And as I'm talking about it, I'm like, damn, I need to re-up that shit again because like my pessimism has been rampant the last few months.
Well, I
But
mean, Mars is in retrograde. That's been a lot of weird shit
that
coming
what it is?
through. Yeah.
It's been, yeah, because I literally the other day I was like, damn, I thought I healed this.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Um,
stuff.
but it's a glamour magic is a great it's essentially it can be a myriad of things. Like some people view certain forms of religion as glamour magic, or that once the mask comes off, you peek behind the curtain, you see the truth. But I like to use glamour magic for self, like for healing. So like when I take a shower, I'm very intentional with the products I use. That a lot most of them have rose in it. Rose is good for healing, for self-love, restoration, salt, things like that. And when I put my makeup on in the morning, I always do sigils and then I blend
Oh,
them in.
shut the front door. I need to
Mhm.
do that.
Yeah,
Okay,
as soon, when we were talking, I was like, I have to figure out and do this.
so why is it all called glamour magic? Because it's about the presence of the luxury of the body?
I think so. I think it's like so I use glamour magic for like is a real big self-love. My Venus is in Cancer, so like
Mm.
nurturing that, and like I'm a Libra rising, so I really love beauty. And so like so it was a way for me to, I think well, while I'm sitting with this, I really think I started using it. I think it was like a hack for me to get out of my own fucking way.
Hmm.
Um but it's something, it's another form of witchcraft and protection that when I do it, I feel way more connected to the witch inside.
Okay, I'm gonna need like all your products and all your bath rituals. And for anyone listening who doesn't know what a sigil is, my first question is if you can explain what that is. Second question is if you use your own sigils that you create or if they're sigils from like,
Love this conversation.
forever.
So sigil is awesome. A sigil, you write an intention out. So the intention could be like some of my intentions. I don't have my other spell book, but as I have a whole like sigil section. So you write the intentions out, and it could be like, I embrace my inner beauty. One of them says, one of my sigils is, I forgive, love, and accept all present, past, and future versions of self.
Well, it's a long one.
It's a long one. So you write the sigil out, so you write the intentions out, and then you go through a process, which I can actually teach you guys how to do too. You go through a process where you essentially create like this little symbol, and that's what a sigil is. It's a little symbol that's been charged with the intention that you've created, that you've drawn with your own hand. And I love them. So I do use some sigils. Runes are great for that too. I do use some sigils, but most of the sigils I use are ones I've created.
Wow, so there's so many options. There's so many different ways that you can start playing
I
with.
love witchcraft.
This is so fun. I almost feel like I'm gonna have you in the group every month in the community, and we're gonna like do something new
As we're
with
chatting, I'm like, damn, I could teach them that. I could teach them that.
right?
The reason I did the protect your peace, I was wondering why that I wanted to do that first, because that felt really driven. Um, and I think that has something to do with the healing of the divine feminine, because the protecting your peace, for me, I developed this warding of your name that we'll be doing is based off the concept of the evil eye. So like jealous energy. And like who spreads jealous energy worse than unhealed people in their feminine? Because like I know some men that are real bitches,
Samesies.
you know, real bitches.
Real bitches.
Um, and so it's I think it I think in tune I think in turn I think my intention is to help us bridge that gap of the wounded divine feminine. Because my thing is,
And we're doing it together as a group. The
I
power
was
of that energetic.
I was just
Oh,
thinking too, like I only share things that happen to me, good or bad, with people that I know will only put their best energy into it. Like there are things in my life where like I feel bad catching up with people sometimes. They're like, you didn't tell me, and I'm like, sometimes I'm like wicked ADHD and I forget. But like my dad sometimes will get really hurt, and he's like, you didn't tell me you were doing this project. I'm like, because your fear would have gotten in the way.
oh
And I
yeah.
have to tell you when like most of the time, I'm very aligned with a lot of people that do give me all of their loving energy, and it's amazing. But like when we were moving, I didn't post about it. I didn't, and I have a decent following on Instagram. And I didn't say anything to anybody outside of like my core group of friends and family until we moved.
Mm.
Because it was so divine the way it fell into our lap. It was such a full circle moment, and I knew it was meant for us, that I was like, no one's energy can fuck this up. And so I reached out, and like I've made really good friends with another witch in the community, in the online space. And I kind of made her be my friend, because I was like, can you teach me how to do this, because this is what I'm trying to do. And like I told her that about our move, and I was like, I really want your energy into it. She's like, of course. And she's an Italian folk practitioner, and like I'll introduce you to Jax, because she is incredible, and she is really big on teaching Italian folk traditions.
That's really cool.
It's cool.
Because I feel like you don't see a whole lot of Italian type of spell work or witchcraft or anything like that, unless it's
Yeah.
labeled something totally different.
You don't, but the evil eye was originated, which I didn't know that. It was originated in
Interesting.
Italy. Il Migliacolo or something like that is what it's called.
Hmm. Interesting.
It's really cool. And that's my favorite part about social media and witchcraft, because it's
Mhm.
that too has introduced me. Like I grew up wicked Irish. So in 2016 to 2020 was very repressed, was very still like, I'm gonna move forward through mud.
Yep. Great.
And
Yeah.
2020 introduced me to a fuck ton of other people,
Hmm.
different backgrounds, different religions, different practices, different. spirituality.
Oh my God, you've got my like brain going brrr, so many like different rituals that I want to put into place now and like all the things I
Yes.
want to do. Listen, I need a budget just for this glamour magic because
Okay.
I'm just picturing
Oh,
all the tubbies.
that's the other thing too. My favorite fucking thing about witchcraft was when I started this, like I broke as I was a stay-at-home mom in 2020. Like things were really, really hard.
Mm.
Like most of what we can do, you can do with limited resources. And that's the other thing too. Most people that practice witchcraft, at least in my generation, my bloodline, were poor as fuck.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Like we were abundant in I'm going back like 8 generations. We were abundant in connection. We were abundant in community. We were abundant in resources, not money.
Mm-hmm.
So like they had to be creative with it. And that's my favorite thing about witchcraft.
You know, that's actually in your design too.
But
I have the same thing. Do you remember how we share the same incarnation cross?
yeah,
There's
I was reading
minor
about
tweaks.
that.
There's minor tweaks. But in your earth, you have gate 14, which I also have as well. So this means that something that grounds you is where are you resourced? Hmm. And that's something I've leaned into a ton over the past year and a half, you know, since my husband lost his job for 9 months and then we're still picking up the pieces from that. I had to go to where my resource that's not money.
Yes.
And you guys, my group with you has been a huge player in that because you support me in all the things and it's like having mentorship without having to pay for it because I give
Yes.
an energetic exchange in return. So that's you guys have been a huge
Well, and
part of that
sometimes
earth
too,
balance.
it's okay to accept help without needing
Hmm.
to pay for it.
Yeah, true. You're right. Good point. Yes. But
But
I
like
fucking
like
love it.
you're the one who created this group that we're in that we all love it.
That is my line four.
Fuck yeah.
Yes.
Like I have so many clients that I've been like, how did you meet these people? I'm like, Adriana, go to her.
Go get yourself a line four
Go
and
to
they'll
her.
put the groups together. Yes.
Did I tell you about the client of mine who I tried to introduce her to your podcast and she was already listening to it?
Yes, you did.
That was so
Oh,
cool.
that melts my heart. Yeah, because when we're sitting here talking into a microphone, we're like, is anybody really listening? So when someone's like, oh, I listen to that podcast, it just like it does everything for me. So deeply satisfying.
I was like, wow, that's dope. That's the podcast I was going to
It was
recommend.
dope, yes. This has been wildly
All
eye-opening.
over the place.
I mean, yes, but also just like so many options, abundant with options.
Yes.
So that's what I really want is, you know, it's what can we pick that we love, what
Even
resonates.
with options. I
Yes.
fucking love that.
Yes. So where can people connect with you and even if they want their own readings with you, like how can
Instagram.
people Instagram, The Good Witch of the
Instagram.
Northeast.
The Good Witch of the Northeast. That is my only profile. That's my only platform at this moment. I was going to try and grow on TikTok. Now that's going away.
Yeah,
I,
I'm waiting.
you know, not worth it. Um, I do sometimes do readings over there, but I do a lot of most of my work is through Instagram.
Mm.
I do have a YouTube in the works, maybe a podcast. I don't know. My stomach's flipping as I say it. So I will.
You'll move through that fear first and then you will. Yeah.
Yes, yes, that's
Yes.
it.
And then whoever is in the Magnetic Rebellion, you can join us at any time. Rachel will be hosting on, what is it, the 22nd, I think.
20 seconds. So 1, 2, 2. Stop.
Oh, I didn't even think about that when we booked it. One,
Mm-hmm.
two, yes. So on the 22nd, she will be walking us through a little bit more in-depth witchcraft and spell work and our first ever spells. If you want to partake, you can also just
Yes.
listen in if you're a member. So you can join us there. Thank you so
I've
much,
done it on
Rachel.
live before, and I've had people that just watched and
Oh,
like,
for sure. Yeah.
you know,
Observing is a great first step. When people come on to co-create and they'll ask like, can I keep my camera off? I'm like, yeah, you can just observe. And
yeah.
then when you're comfortable, you can join in. It's your journey. Thank you so much for being here. I
Thank
appreciate
you
you
for
so
having me.
much. I feel like we could talk for years, but I digress. I will go back. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
This was amazing. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so looking forward to our next connection.
Same. Thank you.